So, what is social welfare policy? That's a good question. Social welfare policy uh, really interacts with all types of policy that our American government implements, from foreign policy, national defense, environmental policy, population policy, transportation policy. They all affect human beings. And so there is some overlap with social welfare policy. Social workers tend to work in social welfare because it deals with social well-being. It is a condition of society that produces its happiness, its programs, its benefits, its social and economic justice. And this sense of social well-being or welfare is what social workers try to implement within our society. Every modern industrial society is a welfare society. There are many third world countries that do not have this. If you break your leg while you're working, you just go home and you are on your own. You do not get benefits, you don't get unemployment insurance. There's very little compensation for things, and you just have to be taken care of by your family or your village. In our society, we have an, a system that has enough money to help those that fall on hard times or are sick or are mentally ill or need some type of rehabilitation, those that are disabled, unemployed, and those that are in poverty. And we have monetary and program systems set up for those individuals. We are mandated by our code of ethics that in 6.01, section 4A, it says, and I'll read it to you, social workers should be aware of the impact of the political arena on practice and should advocate for changes in policy and legislation to improve social conditions in order to meet basic human needs and promote social justice. That's what we do. We fight for basic human needs. We promote social and economic justice. So, as we talked about, social welfare is really social well-being. And it is a nation's system of programs, benefits, and services that gives us happiness and produces a good life for us. Now, it's interesting to note that social welfare policy implies assuming a position, and that means to act or not to act on a social problem in society. And a problem becomes social when a critical mass of individuals tend to deem it social. There's a social movement that comes from it. There's enough individuals, enough concern to rewrite laws or produce laws to protect certain groups of people, end discrimination, or develop a strong moral society. So really, a policy is any governing principle, plan, or course of action that guides and governs the choices and activities of a wide variety of social institutions. Social policy is society's attempt to solve a defined social problem. And these are generally written into law. If it isn't written into law, it isn't enforced by society. It doesn't have teeth. It doesn't have strength. And it usually doesn't have money backing it as well. And these programs, these policies, reach out to society and ask for programs to be developed to meet the policy's mission. And in these programs, that's where social workers come to play, and we work in those programs and try to fulfill the original intent of the policy. For example, we had a social problem in regards to child abuse. And it took us a long time from Mary Ellen, 1874, all the way up to 1974, 100 years, to really look at child abuse and decide that government needs to get involved in abuse and neglect. And so the Child Prevention and Treatment Act of 1974 was established by the federal government and then sent down to the states so that they could write their own and establish their own ways of interpreting the law. And Michigan's actually was instituted in 1975, and this developed Child Protective Service. It also developed social workers as mandated reporters. Social workers, teachers, doctors, anybody who would have contact with children. And today, this is the entry level of where kids start foster care. They enter through Child Protective Services, they go into foster care, and there are many laws and bills around foster care as well. But the Child Protection Act is really the one that got it started. So I want you to realize that if there are problems in society, if there are problems, say, in your agency, in your community, policy is strong. Policy, setting up a law to eradicate that, gives that problem some validity. It helps you to identify it and to get backing, police backing, support, rehabilitation agencies, and policy instigates this, and usually there's state or federal money behind it. So in conclusion, what does policy do for us? Policy enacts practice. If you are a micro practitioner, you have to know that practice informs policy, and then policy influences practice. This is important. The two go together. We're a multi-level micro, meso, macro profession, and all three of those levels interact with each other actually all the time. Policy shapes and delineates what the social worker does, how he or she relates to the client, the manner in which discretion is allowed to be directed or exercised. It provides priorities as to how things should be done in the agency. It also dictates resources of where those resources should go. It shapes the structure of your role as a social worker in your agency. Really, the first thing your field placement is going to do is have you read a big binder of agency policies. You have to know what they know and how the agency is governed and what rules and regulations the agency has to follow. Policy shapes functioning at the program level, setting the agency's direction, the content of services, and the tone and quality of the milieu, of the environment that the agency produces. It works to accomplish and provide the very best services possible. Good policy within an agency, within a state, and within the federal government really produces a humane, empowering, and wonderful society that we all can live in with equality and justice. Thank you very much.